Loading seems to be working fine, and let me just share the slides now as well. So Caroline, if you wouldn't mind, since I'll see the slides only and I'm working on my laptop, if there's any questions in the chat or if there's any, comments, please let me know. Just shout out because I won't, otherwise I won't see things. Okay, folks, so I think we should be good to go now. Let me just share, open the full PowerPoint. If PowerPoint cooperates, fantastic. So now it's official. This is the first slide. Hello, everyone, again. This is the agenda for today. A quick welcome from us, both myself and Caroline. Then I said a few words about the calls for workshops and seminars. A few words from Celia as a successful applicant in previous years. And finally, perhaps the most important part, the Q&A part, where we will answer any questions. So Caroline, over to you, if you wouldn't mind.
Thanks, Pavel, and hello, everyone. Welcome. I just want to welcome you really to this session and also just to make two quick points. So the first is just to thank you for considering running an event and applying for funding from us. So BAAL has been facilitating and funding these kinds of seminars for a long time now. The researcher development workshops we've been doing on and off since 2014, I think, and the BAAL CUP seminars have been running since 1995. So this is actually an anniversary year, 2025, of 30 years of doing the seminars. So offering this kind of funding is really central to BAAL and is a key part of our aim to support our members as much as possible. But I'd argue that the need for such events has never been greater, really. So there's increasingly complex problems that we're trying to solve, challenges of which language is at the centre. We have increasing workloads, life is moving at a faster pace, there's more, we're facing more stress than ever before. And we're also, I think, still in the sort of post-COVID period, working more remotely than we used to. And so we have fewer and fewer opportunities to come together, and the seminars and workshops are really at the heart of that, to bring people together. And we really realised that running a seminar or workshop takes up a lot of time and resources and effort and energy, but it does play a really valuable role, we think, in knowledge creation, in innovation, in facilitating networking, and also just our own well-being of coming together to discuss things. So that was sort of my first point. And the second point I wanted to make was that I think running a seminar or workshop should also benefit you as organisers, and why not? So it's a chance for you to network, to develop leadership, to shape the field, develop projects, to push for ideas, move into a new field, whatever your particular aims are. For early career academics amongst you, I think it's also a chance to show that you can attract funding. It's something to shout about, to put on your CVs, to put on future research proposals and so on. And hopefully also the process of applying for this sort of relatively small amount of funding will be useful in familiarising yourself with the process of bidding. Should you not be successful with us, you have a proposal you can then develop and you can take elsewhere. So I really want to flag, I think, the importance of these seminars and workshops, both for BAAL. I'm saying both, but now I'm going to list more than two things. So take out BAAL, the importance of these seminars and workshops for BAAL and for applied linguistics, and also, hopefully, I hope for you as well. I hope you can get a lot out of it. So I'll stop there and I'll hand back to Pavel to do the important job of guiding you through the application process.
Thank you very much.
I look forward to looking at the applications when they come in. Sorry, over to you, Pavel.
Thank you very much, Caroline. Great, and such important points. I mean, what a nice anniversary. I actually didn't know about that, so perhaps even more incentive to apply this year. And the second point you were making about the benefits that are for the applicant themselves. We often talk about the importance of outputs, obviously positives for people who will be attending the event, but yeah, we might forget about the applicant. So thank you for raising this. Okay, so as Caroline said, after this quick introduction, for the next 10 minutes or so, I'll say a few words about these calls, both calls we're talking about today. The first one is the researcher development workshop. So um, I sent an email with all this information already, but in order not to overwhelm everyone, today is just a summary of the main points. If there's anything you want me to return to at the end, please do so in the Q&A. So what is the aim of these workshops? Well, the main focus here is the research needs of BAAL's junior academic members or early career researchers, PhD students, um, people who may have less experience in research, but obviously still have needs, still want to develop. So these are the main the main aims for these workshops to meet the needs of our junior colleagues, also to ensure continuity in research development within the applied linguistics community as a whole. And we obviously define applied linguistics very broadly. You can find our definition as BAAL on the website. And also importantly, we want this event to be freely accessible to all BAAL members. And for this particular event, this would be only BAAL members. For others, we may open them up. For this one, it would be open on a first come, first served basis, and we prioritize registration to PhD students and ECRs. So, what exactly are we talking about? We're talking about innovative outside the box proposals. Again, clearly identifying the research needs of doctoral students, the relevance of this event to their development. What exactly are we doing that goes above and beyond what is currently offered by universities? And of course, since we emphasize interdisciplinarity, we also want to talk about work across various subdisciplines within applied linguistics, obviously also institutions. So the more people we attract from across the board, the better. What kind of money are we talking about? We're talking about £1,500 per application. You obviously decide how this money would be spent, what this money is needed for. But one example, one question that is often asked is, what, how can I go about doing this? Well, for instance, we know that booking rooms is one of those difficult things. So this perhaps you would expect as an in-kind institutional contribution from your host university if you're holding this in your department. Half of this funding is ring-fenced for applications led by PhD students and ECRs. So as I say, there's no one fixed number of these in the sense that we could have say 2 or 3 per year, but half of the funding available for a given year is specifically for PhDs. Key criteria here, how this funding is awarded. Well, I already said this, the needs of early career researchers. This is the main focus. The focus is on ECRs and PhDs in applied linguistics, and we also pay a lot of attention to EDI matters. And if anybody is interested, we have our EDI statement again on the website. I'm happy to share it at the end as well. The actual proposal here, we're asking for the maximum of 2,500 words. All sections required are detailed in the email that I circulated. There's also a short template showing what sort of financial plan you'd be required to submit. And if you are a PhD student and you're the lead person, the sort of principal investigator, then we would also require or request a letter of support from your supervisor. Just because we are aware that this is an additional sort of activity, an additional piece of work you're doing essentially. So we want to make sure that everyone is happy with that. Okay, just to give you an example, I took this example from the website. There are more there, but for now, this is an event, a workshop from 2024, led by Christy Suet Chung from UCL. And as you can see, the topic was researching pedagogy in TESOL, a methods sharing event for PhD students. What's I think key here is this methods sharing event, because we envision these events as exactly that, networking, building communities, creating an additional space for people to connect with one another. What is also important is that after the event, all organizers are asked to produce 2 reports. One is a financial report for us internally within BAAL, but perhaps more relevantly, there's also an academic report that is shared with all BAAL members via our newsletter. So it's not a big ask, I don't think, but again, uh, potential benefits and another way of disseminating our work or our ambitions. I apologize. I'm gonna just admit someone very quickly before I move on. Yes. So that was the researcher development workshop, and the second part, again, very briefly, I'll say a few words about the seminars, the call for seminars. So what are these? How are they different? Well, in terms of topics, very similar actually, because we want to focus on emergent, timely, relevant topics or methods within applied linguistics. We're talking about an in-depth examination of a specific topic or a specific method, perhaps slightly different to what we would expect in a conference. I mean, what that means, I can't answer. It's just what we're trying to do is, again, try to create something that is perhaps not available elsewhere. This is where we mean, what we mean by creativity here, or innovation. Again, the focus being on participant interactions, networking, connecting people from across different institutions. And one thing we're looking for is ample time for discussion, for contact building, and this can be done via different channels because Caroline mentioned COVID at the beginning. So after COVID, obviously we're all used to working online, doing things in a hybrid way. So this event could be delivered on site, in person, could be delivered online, could be delivered in a hybrid way. It is up to you and how you envision how things would work. In terms of money, we're talking about £2,000 per application. So I think that's an important piece of information as well. What is the proposal? What are we talking about? Again, 2,500 words and all details, what sections are required. This is all in the call that I circulated. I will probably do it again next week so that people are reminded. There's also a financial plan that is required, how exactly you'd be spending this money. One thing here that is important, since this event could involve registration, as BAAL, what we encourage colleagues to do is to have different categories for registration. So, for example, is someone a BAAL member or are they a non-member? If you have students, do they get a reduced rate? And this is all related to our EDI agenda. And again, that will be one of the criteria we'll be looking at when these proposals are being assessed. So yeah, speaking of evaluation, what exactly this seminar will be all about? So the specifics of it all, the number of attendees you're considering, is it conducive to participant interaction? Um, how do you split the informal elements and the formal elements? Usually colleagues propose, for example, a keynote speaker or two keynote speakers, one in the morning, one in the afternoon. How do you envision the whole event to work? The appropriate format and its length. So this is so that it's all again conducive and appropriate for the goals of the event. I've mentioned DI matters already, and also potential outcomes. And Caroline has already mentioned the benefits for you, but also the benefits for the attendance and for the community as a whole. So for instance, there could be a book, say a collected edited volume after the event, maybe a special issue of a journal, maybe a contribution to one of our SIGs, of which we have many, I believe 24 at this point, or maybe even more money that is required, maybe a follow-up application for further funding. So, of course, quite a lot of scope here. Another point is the proposal reach. So, how far are we going with this? Is this of interest to BAL membership? Across different subdisciplines, perhaps also non-academic professions, perhaps also involving practitioners, teachers, people who don't necessarily do research on a daily basis. In terms of budget, we're looking for justification, so excellent justification, offering value for money, whatever money is being asked. And I mentioned the post-event outputs for the researcher workshop. Here is the same thing. We would ask you for a piece for our newsletter. There would be a financial report, but interestingly, there's also a piece that would be published in language teaching, and this is obviously related to all those years of collaboration between CUP and BAL, and you might be familiar with some examples you may have read yourselves in that very journal. And here it's a good moment to introduce Celia, because I want to show you one example, a successful example of a seminar that was an event that Celia organized at the University of Strathclyde in June this year. And as you can see, the topic was AI in Applied Linguistics and TESOL, Researcher and Practitioner Perspectives. So Celia, if I could now ask you to come in and perhaps share a few words about the event and your whole experience organizing it.
Yes, thank you, Pavel. And hello, everyone. We organized the BAAL Cambridge seminar back in June. It was this summer, so just a few months ago. What we tried to do was to bring together education specialists, linguists, and academics in our field who would present and discuss their latest work on topics such as future directions of AI in applied linguistics, ethical considerations, teacher AI literacy, and we offered a range of formats. So we had, for example, individual talks, but also two workshops, a workshop on integrating AI in research and a workshop on AI pedagogy in schools. We had ECR poster presentations, which were a very good opportunity for networking. So I think it's important to consider when you're applying for organizing a seminar the format of the various papers or talks that you want to include. Also, if it's going to be in person or online, we had a hybrid format, so we had capped numbers, I think, if I remember correctly, at 40 for in-person attendance, and then we had left it open to 20 participants for online attendance. So I suppose if I am to give some advice, I could say maybe a few things about the application and then some lessons learned or things to watch out for. For the application itself, it's always good practice to have a very clear rationale to try to explain why the specific seminar that you would like to organize is important, why it is needed, then try to demonstrate relevance to the BAAL community and its priorities and values. It's also good to try to have a strong collaboration across institutions with colleagues from other universities, if you can. And then, of course, state very clearly what are the benefits for early career researchers and students. For instance, in our case, we offered 4 travel scholarships to ensure that those presenting at the seminar will be able to join us. Try to have a realistic and well-sequenced program plan. In our case, it was a little bit of a challenge because sometimes you have a few ideas about who is going to attend, and then people might not be able to make it eventually. Or when you try to have people in person, you want to make sure that they will indeed be able to travel. So do check these things. Then having a transparent and cost-efficient budget is also important. It's important, for example, to make sure that in terms of feasibility, you have the venue, you have your partners who will be there, you have planned for things that could go wrong. Because when you account for all of these things in your application, then this removes, any risk from the committee's perspective. Also in your application, in the proposal that you submit, just try to be specific about the participant profile. To demonstrate that you have thought about who are you targeting, who do you think your target audience is going to be, and why the event is going to be important for them. And then, as I said, the travel scholarships have maybe opportunities for networking through poster sessions, or you might think of any other formats that we haven't thought of. Design also a little bit of space for other participants. In our case, we had, for example, teachers joining us and professionals from IT, from initial teacher education, to have a wider discussion and to actively participate. We also had skilled, the Scottish Centre for National Languages, which presented at the event. And then I suppose you might find it helpful to start planning early. Maybe start the venue and catering planning quite early on. In our case, the event took place in June, but we had also Easter, so build in time, for those slow reply periods when there are holiday gaps, or in some cases when there's admin approvals that are taking place, especially when you're dealing with financial services in your institution. Try to find out who are the right people to contact, who will be able to give permission for the budgets for the event, and if there's anyone who can help you managing the budget, so that you can later on produce the financial reports. Even at the planning stage, that's also very important. If you can also assign clear team roles from the beginning, and you know that you can have volunteers helping you, or anyone else from your department or faculty, that's also helpful. I think overall it was a very positive experience. Our event was very well attended, so I would definitely encourage you all to go for it. And then if anyone would like to look at our program and what we did as an example, or if they would like to chat with me, I'm very happy to talk you through the process and share, any additional information that might be helpful. So over to Bob.
That's fantastic. Thank you very much, Celia. So many useful and relevant points. Things such as, for instance, am I capping the number of participants or not? Yes, and this is also part of this initial thinking, if we're doing it in a hybrid way, how many people are we expecting in the room? How many people are we expecting online? Obviously, online, probably unlimited, but then how this might impact on people's presence in the room if we want people physically in person. Also things like the participant profile, who are we actually targeting? Probably, well, for both events, both types here, but probably particularly for the researcher workshop, where we're thinking of PhD students and ECRs. So yes, fantastic, and also a very kind offer for anybody wanting to ask Celia for further information. Please do so. I will move on. I'll probably stay in this mode like this, because now I can see everyone's faces and also we can see the slide. So it's not the full mode, but I don't think it's a problem. Important dates, because I realized that this is what colleagues will be interested in. So again, just to reiterate, I circulated this in the email, but this is important. We're looking at the 20th of November as the submission deadline, 5 p.m. UK time, and your application should be emailed to myself. What happens after that is we have a robust review process internally within BAAL, within the committee, and by early January it will be announced who the successful applicants are, who was selected, and the event should take place between January and December 2026. So it's essentially talking about 12 months. It's up to you, what Celia was saying, taking into account your availability, sort of how your semesters work at your institution, when exactly would be best. What we probably wouldn't advise would be doing that very close to the annual conference, because we also want all our BAAL members to be at our annual conference. We already have the date. I think there was an email earlier today, so it's early September. So please have this as your consideration as well. Okay, now frequently asked questions. There's obviously some questions that we get regularly, so this is probably the last bit of information I will say before we move on to the Q&A. So who's eligible? So if you are a lead applicant, you should be a BAAL a BAAL member. And also, if you have received this award in the last 2 years, then you wouldn't be eligible. So essentially, we're looking for people who, didn't apply in the last 2 years, and also BAAL members. In terms of venue, so we probably wouldn't consider events that are to be held outside of the UK, just because we wanted this event to be as accessible as possible. So we're talking the context is within the UK, obviously online, no restrictions. That's easy on Teams or Zoom. and if we have people from multiple institutions, what impact might it have on the budget? Yeah, so Celia alluded to this as well. We want interdisciplinarity, we want people from across the board, but it might complicate things. Sometimes these things just work differently. In terms of managing finances, it's the host university and the lead applicant. You would be the one who would be contacted. You'd be the one who will be submitting the financial report. So that's sort of all connected. A few more things in terms of the budget. If there is any support that you think is needed for creating the budget or for sort of admin support for the event, then in an ideal world, we would want to see students to be prioritized so that, again, we try to promote, our EDI values. Also, Celia talked about it as well. We're talking about realistic amounts that are needed, yes? So if there are scholarships, they sort of should reflect what is our reality as we have it now in 2055, and also an additional sort of, well, it's under budget here, probably shouldn't be here, but post-event outcomes or outputs, what are you envisioning? What do you hope to achieve? Always worth emphasizing what the benefits are going to be for everyone. In terms of registration fees, I've mentioned that already. It's up to you. We as BAAL don't require that this is necessarily a part of this application, but if you do include that because it helps with the budgeting, then what exactly it means, how is it going to work? Free to BAAL members versus paid by non-BAAL members. Yes, this is obviously an option, but then if it's free to BAAL, there might be a cap on participant numbers because your room will allow more people, right? And then again, I mentioned different registration categories. If we have BAAL members, non-BAAL members, student, non-student, so that should be part of your reasoning as well. And this is probably my last slide. In terms of thinking, what is it that I can use this funding on or for? So we wouldn't have any payment to applicants or guest speakers. What we can do is kind of have a thank you gift up to £50 per guest speaker. So that's fine. But we can talk about these details via email if once you start working on the budget. Also, travel sustainability as well. We have this recommendation that we prefer trains rather than planes if it's within the UK, and then if it might be that something will be cheaper or more expensive. So please provide these details so that we can see your rationale. Number of awards, generally 2 per year, but in 2024-25 we had just 1. That was for workshops, for seminars, also generally 2, but in 24-25 we had 3. So it all depends, if there is some money left from previous years, there's obviously there's more money in the pot if we have also a lot of applications and some of them are really, really good, then it's part of the decision-making process. But generally we're talking about 2 per type, yeah, per 2 workshops and 2 seminars. This year we've had 3, and 1 workshop actually just took place yesterday at the University of Leeds. So I think that's all I've got to say. I hope it wasn't too much, that it wasn't too overwhelming. Most of this information is in email anyway, but I hope it is helpful. And I think at this point, I'm going to encourage some questions or comments from colleagues who have joined us today. So maybe I'll just stop sharing so that I could see the chat. And yes, if there are any questions or comments for any of us.
Pavel, were you planning to stop the recording as well?
Yeah, of course. Thank you for reminding me.
That's my main role here today.
Very good. Thank you. Stop recording. There we go.